Welcome to Music Motors. Welcome to the 2021 Caterham 420R. Now, the Caterham 420R is powered by a Ford 2-litre Duratec engine for a 5-speed box, and it produces 210 horsepower, 203 newton meters of torque, but weighs 585 kilograms. Now, what this means is that the 0 to 60 times 3.8 seconds, top speed of 136 mile an hour, and noise. Very engaging noise. Now, in previous episodes of Music Motors, I've put these through daily tests, and with COVID going on, I don't really have many gigs, so there wasn't really any point in driving 150, 250, 350 miles, because I know within reason these are actually, dare I say it, practical. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a practical car, but if you needed to drive a substantial distance, take some luggage with you, the Caterham 420R is going to allow you to do that. So in this episode of Music Motors, I cover over everything that I can possibly think about with a Caterham. More specifically, this 420R and just how well it speaks to you as a driver. So stick around, like, subscribe, comment, those good bits and pieces that YouTube people are supposed to tell you to do, but I always forget. So outside, this car's finished in Volcano Red, a brilliantly beautiful colour. Second in line for me to BMW Sunset Orange, because the last, the 360S that I had that beautiful BMW paint, and that is a stunning thing to look at. Now, people always take the mickey when I come to the front end and I say this looks 19th century. So let me clarify on my last video where I said that, what I actually mean is early 1900s. This car reminds me of Bugsy Malone. It reminds me of Gangs of New York, that sort of early 1900s era, because it is very much like that design, to be fair. And whilst, Caterham don't really tend to do that many visual updates to their cars, this somehow seems to still look as amazing as the first one I saw, back in the late 90s. It's a broad front end, there's a 7 on the grille, and this one's obviously got the option to make it stand out even more. This one's also got the LED, the enhanced super bright LED headlights, and that also means you get LED side lights, which you can kind of use as daytime running lights. But the front end is distinct, you can't miss the Caterham 7, and in this beautiful Volcano Red, it really is a fantastic car to look at. Now, side profile, you can't question it's very Caterham. There's nothing else quite like one of these, but this one's got 15-inch alloys on Avon ZZS tyres, semi-slicks, but this is a really cool side profile. Now, the back is where every single time I say the same thing. It looks like it's got trailer lights on the back. It really does. They're not rubbish, but I just feel like, come on guys, like, you've updated the cluster in the front. Why can't you update the cluster in the back and make this a really beautiful car to look at? Because from every angle, a Caterham is really cool. There's nothing much to it. You see everything that's going on, but yet somehow it's just a really great looking thing. Outside, Caterham always nail it. Inside, it's where loads of people say to me, hey, surely you're not going to fit in that. Surely you're not going to do long distance. No, that can't be comfortable. It's actually a very comfortable place to be. And sure, not as comfortable as the S, but this does have comfort seats. The only thing that makes this uncomfortable is the fact you've got a 4-point harness to put on every time you get in and out. But that doesn't make it uncomfortable, it just makes it slightly more tedious. The inside's actually quite comfortable, dare I say, quite spacious. Even if you've got someone else in the car, you've got a heater, you've got a good amount of everything you need at your fingertips. What you don't have is infotainment, but there's not really space for it. And even if you had speakers, you probably wouldn't be able to hear what was going on anyway. On longer runs, it can become a little bit, drony, but you just put your headphones in and it's not going to drone anymore, basically. Going over potholes on typical English roads, this actually soaks them up pretty blooming well. And because they're not exactly low profile alloys, you're not really worried about, I'm going to mark them, I'm going to curb them. it's actually pretty good. Now, visibility out the front is very, very good because there's nothing to block your visibility, to be fair. The only difficulty is checking behind you because the wing mirrors, they're there and they're in place, but they're not very accurate, and the centre mirror tends to vibrate itself out of place, so you end up doing a lot of head checks. Now, your passengers actually, as I said, they do have a good amount of space. Shall I say change passengers to passenger? Unless you count all the bugs you picked up on the front of the car. The inside's nicely well built. This has got comfortable seats. This has got buffalo leather hide in it, and it's just a really lovely place to be, even on long distances. And yeah, when you're going flat out, it can get a little bit noisy in here, but by all means, is that a beautiful, beautiful sound to be hearing. Really, you don't need music because you've got the music of the engine. It's loud, but it's not obnoxious. It's a beautiful sounding engine. The inside feels really, really well built. Now, this one obviously has a few options on it, and one of the options was to have the removable steering wheel. Now, that, to be fair, gives you an extra element of security. This means that someone can't just jump in your car and drive it off. Although at 585 kilograms, there's a chance that they could just pick it up and put it in their pocket. Being an R, they're not on the outside, just a quick flick to the outside. You've also got the battery isolator, and that's basically what separates this and the seatbelts S to R. And a few other tuning setups, suspension, etc, etc, etc. Now, performance, 210 horsepower, 203 newton meters of torque, 3.8 to 62, top speed of 136 miles an hour. Now, that's pretty quick. By all means, it's pretty quick, and especially in something which doesn't obviously offer you a lot of protection from the elements. But the one thing I've got to say is, this is a driving experience like no other. The steering is sharp, it is responsive, the brakes give you proper feel, the engine has no lag, it's instantaneous, as long as you're in the right gear, because it's a naturally aspirated Ford Duratec engine. It's a 2 litre, so in the bottom end you're not going to have a lot of power, but as it builds up in the revs, the power builds with it. When it comes to driving around town, it can be as sedate as it needs to be noise-wise. And then when you get on the back roads, it absolutely roars like nothing you've ever heard. Well, unless you've heard a Caterham before. The big thing really is that this, every time you get in it, it doesn't feel like a task to drive anywhere. Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit laborious when it's raining and you're squeezing inside the doors because you've got the roof on, and putting the four-point safety harness on can be a little bit like tedious at times, but it's always worthwhile because every journey is an utter experience. Every journey is just an occasion, which, like, there is no other car out there like this. Morgans are lovely, don't get me wrong, and that's the closest thing I can relate this to. But this is smaller, this is more nimble, and I feel like the drive is more connected with the driver because it is so back to basics. It's a beautiful thing to drive, and you feel very, very balanced. Not having traction control ABS to kick in when you're throwing it around back roads is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Obviously a little bit sketchy as it starts to get a little bit damp outside, but you can live with that. You kind of learn where the sweet spot is, economy-wise, and I will roughly go over this, only because I know what these get from so much experience with these in the past. Obviously around town you could be seeing as low as 25 to the gallon depending how you drive and what sort of traffic you're in, but if you get on a run you can be seeing high 40s because there's no weight to this. Yeah, it's a 2 litre Ford Duratec engine, but there's no weight to slow it down, and to be fair, it's relatively aerodynamic, not exactly, you know, Bugatti Chiron aerodynamic, but it does a very good job of cutting through the air, not giving you any drag. As a result, if you look on me then, it's pretty good. To the outside, Volcano Red looks amazing. The front end is just, it's Caterham, isn't it? Side profile's really, really cool and makes it distinct to them. No one else builds a car that looks like this. Westfield is probably the closest, but for me, Caterham do it best. But that's just my opinion. The back end, they need to sort those lights out, but I've been saying that for about 4 years now, and probably not going to happen anytime soon. Inside, it's ridiculously well built with everything at your fingertips. The seats are comfortable if you go for these. Obviously, if you go for the carbon buckets, which do, by the way, have heating options, very cool, but maybe not so good for long term, because carbon bucket seats will break your back eventually. It is quite a comfortable place to be in the winter, in the cold. It's really cosy in here. It's like being in a warm tent. And the drive is uncomparable to anything else on sale, because this just stands out for me night and day against anything else. Every time you press the button, you're excited. Every time you get in and see open road ahead of you, your heart beats faster, because you know you can put your foot down a bit. Speed limit dependent, of course. Really then, Caterham don't make cars, they make dreams. Because the other thing is, as I've noticed going around, Caterhams don't create envy. Caterhams create confusion, as you kind of expect, like, what is that? But they create admiration. People admire it. Kids look and like stare and wave. Adults dream of owning something like this. And you know what? £36,000 base, 42 grand with loads and loads of options on it. That's Golf R money. Let's be honest. In fact, Golf R's are actually fetching a bit more now. Even used ones have gone up in price. That's for another video. Caterham aren't selling you a car. They're not selling you a means of transport. They're selling you a dream, and they're selling you something that no one else does. So the 2021 Caterham 420R, exceptional to look at, comfortable to be in, a dream to drive, a joy to be in, and it always sparks excitement wherever you go.